morning and welcome to episode 104 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining me this morning as we have a very exciting day here to close out 2021 with a huge double pick six carryover at Aqueduct, over $195,000 in the pool. Thanks for joining me as we're going to preview the pick six races and give you hopefully some excellent opinions and suggestions on how you're going to play the races. Before we start, please make sure you subscribe right there on the bottom right hand side of the screen. A lot of you already know the drill. Also hit that notification bell once you've done that, and then also hit that thumbs up button, which will tell YouTube that this is a good show to listen to with great content. As you can see on my name tag, you can reach me on Twitter at hkravitz, and below on the scroll, email is hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. If you are watching on Twitter right now, I highly recommend you switch over to YouTube so you can join our live chat. Just go to the YouTube search bar and type in HHH Racing Podcast, or the URL is youtube.com/C/HHH Racing Podcast. Again, youtube.com/C/HHH Racing Podcast. You can go there and see my website. And of course, this live show is on right now. Or you can simply just go to YouTube search bar and type in HHH Racing Podcast. Again, if you're watching on Twitter, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. And please make sure you join that live chat. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this pick six sequence today at Aqueduct, and we have a great guest to help us along through that. Very quickly, Race Day blog, highly recommend it. It's only $12.99 per month. I give specific ABC selection, spot plays, price plays. I've had some great hits here on that Race Day blog in 2021. You can subscribe right there through Patreon. The information is also below the video player in the description. So if you go to the description, check that out. It does auto-renew at the beginning of the month. So I would not subscribe today to the Race Day blog. Wait till tomorrow. Otherwise, you'll have to pay twice. I wouldn't want that to happen. So subscribe to that Race Day blog tomorrow. I have a lot of people on that list. A lot of people receive the Race Day blog. I really think it'll be beneficial towards your handicapping. Before we bring on our guests, we have a lot of people already joining us on the show. Horsey Dave, thank you. There are the changes before I bring on our guest. This is according to Horsey Dave. Horsey Dave, I'm assuming these are accurate. I believe these just came out literally in the last few minutes. So there they are on the screen. You can check the NYBRA website, of course, also for that. We have Dean G. Dean is here, ready to knock out this pick six. Thanks, Dean. Michael Bryant, you're welcome. Always a great viewer of the show. We have David. All the great guests here are here. Yes, it's a very exciting day today. Jim is here. Jim's going out to Vegas. Jim, good luck in Vegas. And Horsey Dave said, yes, I proofread them. So those scratches are correct. Let me bring those scratches out one more time before I bring my guest on. Race 3, the 2 and 7, as you can see. This is the pick six starts in race 3, ladies and gentlemen. Race 5, the 6 is out. Race 6, we have the 1, 8, and 10 are scratched. Race 7, the 1 and 7. And race 8, the deuce is out. Thank you very much, Horsey Dave, for sending that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go right to our guest. No messing around this morning. No 10 minutes to post, no usual. This is sort of a bit last second last night when I saw the double carryover. I said, listen, we got to crush it. And I got to bring on someone who knows what the hell he's talking about. He's an excellent handicapper. He's also a journalist for The Special out in Saratoga. He's a good friend of mine, been on the show many times. Paul Halloran. Paul, how you doing today?
Well, Howard, at the last minute, you got to take what you can get, Howard. So you got me.
I don't know about that. Listen, Paul, I called Paul about I texted him about 6 o'clock last night. Said, Paul, I got to have someone on. And I thought about you. And so thanks for coming on, Paul. I really appreciate it. Before we get to the pick six, I got to ask you about Flightline. Flightline's been a huge topic of conversation. I guess I have two questions for you. One is, how good do you believe Flightline is? And number two, does he remind you of anyone? Because you've been around racing a long time.
Well, I think, the question, I think, Howard, is how good can he be? I mean, three for three, certainly the sky is the limit. I was, you're always looking to beat a favorite. I was looking at that race last week at Santa Anita, and saying, well, you could make a case against them if you were trying to beat them, but it's just the numbers that he puts up, being geared down in the stretch, and as you did a whole podcast on that card. That was a good field. It's always a good field. That was a good field, and now we'll see. We'll see what happens this year. You and I talked a little bit last night about what type of campaign that they're going to have. You got to think that they're going to go backwards from the Breeders' Cup Classic. You would assume, right? And and lead up to that. We're certainly hoping we see him in Saratoga for the Whitney. I could tell you that much. Uh,
Yeah, I
all our
think I
friends
got a
at
feeling.
Pirate.
I got a feeling the only time we're going to see him in New York is in the Met Mile. That's just my guess. I think he'll probably go to the Pacific Classic because it's going to be sort of out in California, more closer
Right.
to his home turf. But I'd love to see him at the Whitney for very selfish reasons, as we discussed
Yeah.
last night as well. Does he remind you of a particular horse you've seen up to this
Mm,
point? I
mm.
got a name for you, Paul. A New York favorite.
I'm just trying.
How about a little commentator?
Yeah, that's a good. I'm just trying to think of someone who was just that dominant. That early. With no. Now again, the reason you were trying to make a case against him last week is what's going to happen when he's in a three-way pace battle. Someone looks him in the eye. He might just run off and win by 10 again, but it's certainly going to be entertaining when we see that. You mentioned the Met Mile, Howard. I think it's interesting. That's a tremendous race every year, but that has been a race that horses have dominated. I think of Frosted running off the way he did.
Oh
So,
boy.
uh, and you would think a one-turn mile for this horse, the way he's running so far, would be right between the eyes. We'll see about a mile and a quarter, but
I would
uh,
love to see. I don't know what Life is Good's plan after the Pegasus. I would love to see these two hook
yes,
it up in the Met Mile. I mean, they're both perfect distances for both these horses, and I mean, Life is Good. I think is going, or I would assume that he would probably go to maybe Dubai, and I think Flightline will go to Saudi Arabia. This is just me speculating, which would set it up perfectly for their next race, the Met Mile. I hope. Let's just hope we see that. But listen, we got a lot of people watching already. Thank you for your watching again on YouTube or on Twitter. And again, if you are on watching on Twitter, I highly recommend you go to YouTube just so you can join the live chat because we have a lot of people watching today. And as I just showed up, it is muddy right now, the track condition, Paul. But I know you're not too far away, and there is no rain scheduled, but it's not really warm. So we'll see how the what's going to happen with the track condition. I'm sure it's going to dry out by the third race. All right, Paul, let's jump in. We got 195,000 that is going in the pool. It's mandatory, so even if 5 out of 6, 5 out of 6 is going to, well, it would pay anyway. But even if only there's 5 winners, the 5 winners, people would sort of split that pool. I believe if there's 5 total winners, do they pay 4 out of 6? I think there is a consolation because it's a mandatory payout. Do you know the answer to that? If anyone knows the
I,
answer, let me know on these
I
days.
would I would think not. I would think
Okay.
five would split the pool, but I'm not certainly not positive. Let's just get 6 out of 6 and not worry about how.
I know on a normal day they don't pay 4 out of 6, but when it's a mandatory payout, I'd be curious. I think you're probably right. I think they just pay 5 out of 6 on the pool. All right, let's jump right in, ladies and gentlemen. Let me share my screen here, and it starts in the third race as I go ahead and bring up the PPs here. And of course, everyone knows the drill. We're going to see my picks are, of course, H. Paul's picks are P. Ladies and gentlemen, just if there are any little mistakes on the bottom of the screen, we just got the scratches as we're live here at 10:40 Eastern Standard Time from Horsey Dave. And again, Horsey Dave, thank you. So if there are some minor issues with the picks on the bottom, we'll let you know because we had to scramble just a few minutes before the broadcast to switch the picks at the bottom. It starts at approximately 1:44 Eastern Standard Time. Paul, it's 6 furlongs. It is 2-year-olds, maiden 40. The good thing about that, Paul, is we're able to see the board, so we'll have a little bit of idea because with 2-year-olds, you never quite know. You are going, and of course, you see the morning lines, everything's updated. You're going to go with Jimmy Jerkin's horse, the 5 Gun Maestro or Maestro for Air Cancel.
Yeah, well, I mean, I went with the two gun runners in out of my three picks. I'll be using them both in the pick six. It's not thrilling to me that they paid 150 for this horse and they're willing to lose him for 40 after two starts. That's certainly a negative. However, that is the biggest class drop in racing, as you know, going maiden special, maiden claiming. The gun runners have just run off the screen this year, and I think in a race like this where there's two of them, I want to make sure I have. I'm not going to get beat by either one of them. Even though the three, who was the morning line favorite, who I also used, the horses coming out of his last race have already gone 0 for 3. So I'm making a pretty good case against the horses I've used, Howard.
Yeah, one interesting horse that I might have to take a second look at, especially if it stays wet. Now, let me bring us on screen here a second. Actually, I'm going to bring this. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and bring us on screen. If you did not watch the races yesterday, folks, it was very speed favoring. It was inside. It was speed favoring. The track was wet. Now, when you have a drying out track, Paul, that's real tricky. So I'm assuming the track is going to dry out. How much we don't know. But if inside speed holds, you have to upgrade your horse, who you have in second. I don't really have it all right now. But again, I might need to change that. You can't whip it. You have in second.
Yeah, I thought that horse was a little interesting, even before the track conditions. Howard Kelly Breen, I didn't do a lot of formulator stats, but I try to do it in races like this. Kelly Breen going maiden special to maiden claiming in dirt sprints is 20%. So that's another plus for this horse. I like the Cantharoses. Uh, and as you point out, yeah, Lescano is aggressive. We know Jose Lescano is aggressive. He could just send this horse from the inside and never look back. I think that's a definite possibility. He'll definitely be on my pick six ticket.
Let me talk a little bit about my top choice, which you don't have anywhere, which I think is great. Actually, I always like when our guests have completely different opinions. And by the way, the 7, as you see, is scratched there. I had stats. Of course, I had preparation to talk about the 7, but we don't need to anymore. Good skate. I don't like 0 for 4. It's only 4 starts, but there's two things I like about the 6, Paul. Number one, that was a much improved effort last time. I'm not going to show the replay. The gelding got a nice strip along the inside, took a lot of dirt, and the horse he lost to, by the way, Print Track, was 1-5 in that spot. The horse that Good Skate lost to would be 1-20 in this race, Paul. So the 6 lost to a good one. He's improving in an angle I like a lot. And by the way, Rudy scratched his other one and leaves this one in. That's another angle. But a third angle, Paul, I like here is I like when horses have a work since a very good effort. If the 6 had not worked at all, I'd be a little bit dubious. But you can see the 6 worked. I mean, it's nothing special, but he got a nice maintenance work since his last start. I like that a lot. He's got tactical speed. To me, he's by far the best horse that has run. However, there are a few other horses we got to take a look at. Now, I'm not going to show the replay on the 3. We are going to show some replays, though. Showing replays at Churchill is tricky. Uh,
Yeah.
Running son of a gun got off slow, Paul, and then he was like climbing and steadied along the inside. This is you mentioned gun runner. This is a big horse. Okay, so he's gonna need a clear run for Dylan Davis, Paul, because he doesn't seem like the kind of horse to me that is going to handle traffic very well. So if he breaks, he's obviously a huge factor here. You've got him in third, and I have your 5 Gun Maestro in fourth. But again, as I bring us back on screen, I am everyone who is familiar with the way I play. I'm assuming you're going to do the same thing, Paul. You're going to play an ABC ticket. I'll be definitely
Yes.
using the 1, probably as a B. And right now I have 3, 5, 6 all as A's. I just don't have a real strong opinion in this race. Any other thoughts before we go to race two, Paul?
No, I think the three is interesting. How Bill Morey is pretty good at picking his spots. You can see his numbers. He's a high percentage trainer.
Yeah.
This particular move, he's 1 for 10 off the claiming a horse and going right into a maiden claiming with him. He's only 1 for 10. As I said, the horses who have come out of his last race, that Churchill race that you talked about, and Howard, the only reason the replays are tricky is Churchill's a pain in the ass about it. That's why they're tricky. Okay,
Yeah.
they they,
I'm
they
gonna.
won't make them available. They won't let them be on the form. They don't even sell the daily racing form at Churchill. But that's another discussion for another
Yeah, that
day.
is another discussion for another day.
But
Listen,
the horse,
we've got problems in horse racing, but well, we can
yeah.
discuss that another time.
But
Let,
Maury is, you look at 31% with 2-year-olds off the claim. In general, he's very good. This particular move is not tremendous, but in general, he's a pretty sharp guy. He doesn't start, a million horses. You can see he's only got 173 starters this year, and he wins at 21%. So I think the three is. I don't see him 9-5. I thought that morning line was pretty aggressive. I don't see him that, but I think he's certainly an A on my ticket.
Yeah, we agree. By the way, Horsey Dave is Mother Nature today. He makes a good point, and again, you're on the East Coast, so I'm not sure there's gonna be a lot of sun. There's not a lot of wind apparently. I haven't looked in the deep dive, and it's muddy, so it will dry out. But how much? I think Horsey Dave makes some excellent points there. So we'll just have to see. I would definitely lean towards speed today, though. Let's go on. Let's go on to the next race here, race four. As I go ahead and switch the PPs and get our picks up here. Race four, the second leg, is 6.5 furlongs. Of course, it's on the dirt. All these races are dirt. These are 3-year-olds, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, filly and mares, 25 claimers, non-winners of 2. And you are going with the 5 horse on top for Danny Gargan and an apprentice jockey. Hey, it's Toddy.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Howard, if I had an unlimited budget and I were playing a caveman, I would hit the all button in this race. I thought I had the weakest opinion of the 6 races for me is in this race. So I think it's perfect for Elisa Morrison, the former equestrian rider from Canada, to pick up her second win. She's proven to be okay. Um, Danny Goggin is obviously one of the top New York guys. He wins at a high percentage. The horse is 1 for 13, but they're all 1 for 13, 1 for 14, 1 for 15, 1 for 17. So
Yeah.
uh, I just thought this was a type. I think second off the layoff for Goggin is good. Didn't run that well on a wet track last time, so you got to have to take a look at that. We've talked a lot about the track conditions. He had a poor effort off the on the slop last time, but it sounds like this would be more muddy to good than sloppy. But I just thought that she's going to be aggressive, and I thought it was a wide open race.
And yeah, I think it's clearly wide open. And you're going with the 9, who I thought was a bit interesting here for another female jockey, Jackie Davis and Carl Grusmark, a horse that usually runs at Finger Lakes, Violentium.
Jackie Davis, Howard, former one of the top jockeys at Suffolk Downs when she rode there. Cal Grusmark, former Suffolk Downs trainer. How can I not use this horse, Howard?
Of course.
And
Uh,
Jackie is one of my favorites. I do have a soft spot for some jockeys, and I got to know Jackie when she did ride at Suffolk. She finished in the top 3 twice, I think, in the standings. And of course, from the famous Davis family of jockeys, led by the patriarch Robbie, and she's a terrific, terrific kid, and just hasn't been able to make it full time on the New York circuit, but she's bounced around. And when she does win on the Naira circuit, it's big numbers. I don't think this horse will be much over 6 or 8 to 1. But the horse is dropping from allowance to this claiming non-level claiming level
condition, yeah,
and
condition claimer, yeah.
claiming condition rather. And she's going to be aggressive from out there. And actually, she was my second choice, I think, on the top 3 picks I gave you. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. And I will say though, allowance non-winners of 2 at Finger Lakes is probably somewhat comparable to a
Yeah. Good
condition
point.
claimer. So
Yeah.
it's a drop on paper, but in reality, I'm not really sure it's a drop. What I like about the 9, I have in third, is I think Jackie's gonna be aggressive, and in this kind of race, you want a horse probably that's going to show some speed because these horses just don't pass too often. So I think the 9 is a bit interesting. I am concerned, Paul, about the extra half furlong. I don't know about this 6.5. If this was 5.5 or 6, I'd probably like her more. Um, there's a horse in here that is going to be a big reason why I'm going to hit this pick six or not. I'm going to bring us on screen here. I have two sort of wise guy, clever opinions within this sequence, and the number three, Ghost, 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 the 12-1 morning line is one of them. Hear me out. So you look at the numbers, nothing special, but as you mentioned, Paul, I mean, there's really no one in here that is any spectacular anyway in this race. There's a few things I like about this horse. First of all, I like Trevor McCarthy quite a bit. Now, that last race that Ghost 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 was in for this filly was like a grade one compared to this race. I mean, I'm not going to go and show you the form, but those were very good horses, especially compared to these horses. So that last race to me, plus it was a mile, doesn't bother me too much. Here's what I like. If you look at on the right side of the screen here, you see steadied, stumbled, broke slow, tossed head, four wide, stump. I mean, all you see is trouble lines with this horse. Two starts back, the horse was four wide again, but ran on well and won by 4. Maybe the light bulb went on there so much that they decided to put her in a much tougher spot. I think there's enough speed in this race. There's really no one in here I trust. I like McCarthy. He's going to save ground on the inside. There's a bunch of horses in here, Paul, that I don't think want 6.5. I think distance might help this horse. I'm going Ghost, Ghost, Ghost on top. I think she's a bit interesting here at a price. The horse I have in second, which is much more likely probably winner, would be Mazel 18, who I have in second. You have in third. I'll go ahead and go back full screen here. Uh, I don't know. I mean, she's 1 for 12. She's gonna be the favorite. It is Dylan Davis, and she does have a lot of early speed. Probably the pace setter. But I mean, Paul, she's no killer. I mean, listen, 56, 58. She's 1 for 12. I mean, it's hard to really trust anyone in this race, right?
Which is why I was kind of looking when we were talking about the 9. I was looking to see if she had the top buyer, but look at the 1, by the way, with the out of left field 83 buyer at Keeneland in start number 2.
Yeah.
I hadn't looked at this horse at all, but I'm looking. He starts at Aqueduct and gets bet down to 8-5 and wins on debut, and then Wesley Ward brings him to Keeneland and they bet him at 5-2, and he, and he runs a 83 buyer. Now I don't know what happened after that race, but if you can run a 63 buyer uh, in this race, you might be in the winner's circle.
Michael Bryant is a fan of yours, Paul, because he thinks the 1 is interesting. Also, he likes the 1 in the second leg. And by the way, my good friend Tom, who's out in San Francisco, Paul, is up nice and early this morning. This works great for his schedule. Tom, thanks for joining the show. Maybe you'll put together a little pick six tick together. I'm totally against the 1, Paul. I think she was obviously had a lot of potential earlier in the year. She's gone completely the wrong direction. I have no interest in the 1 whatsoever, especially with the jockey as well. But listen, it's a trick. It's a trainer that has won before with these kind of horses and has a very low profile jockey. If I thought the 1 would be loose, Paul, I'd be a lot more interested in her. But I don't think she's gonna be loose, and I just think she's totally off form. So I respect people who like the 1. I'm just going to disagree with that. Let's go on to the next race. So this race 4, very tricky. Probably you want to spread as much as possible, it looks like. But I think the 3 is very interesting, in my opinion. Let's go to the next race here. $25,000 is the claiming price. The purse is 50,000. They're going a mile and 1/8, 2 turns here. These are some just nice, hard-hitting veterans, and you are going with the 3 on top, who is 8-5 morning line. I've got a feeling Paul might be lower than that with the scratch of the 6, who was probably the only other speed. The very aptly named Blewett, named after a great guy, Jason Blewett.
Yeah, and I got scratched out. My top pick, I was 6-3-4 here.
Yeah.
So when you and I spoke 2 minutes to post time, so to speak, uh, uh, I think Blewett is coming off the monster effort. He ran a big number. He is definitely a horse for course. He's 8 starts at Aqueduct, 4 wins, 3 seconds. Would I have a lot of confidence in having him on a thin ticket? No. Um, he's certainly going to be an A, but I want to get some backup around him because he runs that last race, he wins. Even stepping up a little, if he runs the race he ran last time, he wins easy, obviously. But you know, show me in his PPs where he's put two races together like that back to back.
Good point. And the other sort of moto horse there is the 4 Darkstorm for George Weaver and Cancel.
Yeah. Again, didn't love him, but I think it's a type of horse for me, Howard, in the body of the race. If I'm playing verticals, I'm probably going to use him underneath. But, um, in a pick six, you certainly don't want to get beat by him. That you find yourself in these big days, which ends up costing you more money, Howard, as you know. You have these horses you don't want to get beat by, and you don't get beat by them, but you get beat by someone else, and the ticket costs you more.
No, no question about it. This is an excellent question from Michael Bryan. I want to pose this to you. Uh, could you single here? Now let's talk about. Actually, I'll let you answer that question, then I'll talk about Blewett.
No, I just said I would have no confidence in singling him here. No,
Okay.
I have two. I have two other races that I would single before this one, and maybe three. So
Wow.
no, I definitely would not single him myself.
So, Michael, let me talk about Blewett. Now, first of all, the 6 who is scratched. I'm going to put us both on screen here. The 6 who was scratched, I thought would be sort of the horse that would be pressing Blewett because the 6 had some speed and was Carmouche. The 6 is scratched, so this upgrades the 3. But look very carefully at the 3. And Paul, I've talked about this on my show, and I know you feel the same way. People get way caught up with the last race. Okay, you have to
Right.
look deep with this horse. Now, yes, an 87 buyer would win this race by 4 or 5 lengths, right? You see the blue color coded time form there. That was a very slow paced race. Now, Blewett might get away with a slow pace again today. It is possible. However, when you go 50 and 2 and 115 to 3/4, obviously Blewett's going to have the best of it and get a big buyer. But like you said, where does that number come from? Before that, you see 73, 60, 63. This 81 here was a mile and eighth, but again, 49 and 1, 112 and 4. So listen, Blewett can obviously win, but really, he's not overly consistent, number one. And number two, if anyone presses this horse, Paul, if anyone breathes on this horse, I think he could be in trouble. Now, the question is, who is that going to be? It's not going to be the 4. It's not going to be the 5. I suppose Hernandez on the 7 could go, but really, he's more of a closer. The one I think that could now is the 8 for Rudy Rodriguez, Real Quality. I don't love this horse to win, but I suppose he could show some speed. So it's tricky. I don't know, Michael. I think the 4 is a better horse, personally. The problem is he comes from the clouds, and it might not set up for him. So, the other horse I just want to mention here, which neither is the number 2, Direct Order. This horse has 74 early time form. I think he can be up a little bit close in a small field. And Eddie Barker, and you know this guy very well, is excellent off the claim, by the way. And he's got McCarthy on him. He's got some numbers on the go back. They're good enough. I'm a little bit interested in the 2, although I would say 4-3, my top choice. Paul, well, actually, we'll show your pick 5 ticket at the end. I think 85 to 90% of people playing this, a caveman, are just going to go 3-4 only. If you can somehow beat the 3 or the 4, this thing is going to completely blow up. I'm just going to mainly use 3-4 and a little bit of 2. Any other thoughts before we move on?
Well, no, the thing about Blewett, Howard, you look at him. I mean, as of tomorrow, he's an 8-year-old, right? So,
Yeah.
he's going to slow down. I just pulled up the lifetimes on Formulator, and early in his career, he's running a 92 at Aqueduct and a 90 at Aqueduct and a 96 at Belmont and the Commentator, and he ran in the West Point at Saratoga. But those are going back from 20 to 2020 all the way back to 17. So the thing about it in this race, as you point out, though, is going the 9 furlongs. If he's not pressured at all early, it's just going to be a merry-go-round race.
Yeah, and he handles the wet too. So I blew it's going to
Right.
be, I'd say blue it's going to be 4 to 5, Paul, and I think dark is it Dark Storm? Sorry, I remember the name here. Dark Storm is going to be 2 to 1. I would say it's going to be like 3 to 5 and 2 to 1, and everything else is going to be pretty big. So it's a shame the 6 came out for me selfishly because I really thought the 3 was very vulnerable in this spot. But now with the scratch of the 6, I'm not so sure that is the case. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to race 6 as I switch our picks and go ahead and switch the PPs. This is race 6, leg 3. They're going a mile on dirt. 3-year-olds and up, optional, 62 claimers, non-winners are 2 lifetime. There's a horse in here. You mentioned singles a little while ago. You and I both agree here. I think this is one of the more obvious singles of the entire sequence. Todd Pletcher has a horse, number 6, untreated, who is coming off a big win and looks like the sky's the limit for this late blooming 3-year-old about to turn 4.
Yeah, I mean, he is on the caveman ticket that I gave you, Howard. He was my single. I came down to him and someone else, and I decided if I had to go with one. I mean, you just look. So the horse, breaks his maiden at Tampa uh, for Todd after started out with Chad Brown, breaks his maiden to Tampa, which in the winter, people think Tampa and don't look at it as a top level track, but a lot of the big guys from Gulfstream will ship horses over there for maiden races in the winter. So he runs a big number at Tampa, and when you have a 3-year-old, you get Kentucky Derby fever, as we'll talk about later on with another horse. And so they take a swing for the fences in the bluegrass. He runs into a horse called Essential Quality. He runs into the Preakness winner Rombauer, and obviously it doesn't go well. They give him the rest, and Pletcher is so good bringing him back off the rest. He just throws in a 96 fire. He's had 4 workouts since that, which I like. That kind of mitigates the bounce factor. And I see you showing the replay, Howard. He doesn't really look that fluid until mid stretch, till he really straightens out. But
Yeah, he's
boy,
the
he looks
7.
powerful.
He's the 7 here, by the way. Go ahead, Paul. I'm gonna watch the whole race in its entirety so people can make their own judgment. You can talk through it. Go ahead.
Yeah, he just kind of plodding along here. The rider's not being too aggressive. He's obviously got a good position. He's in fifth, but he's only 3 lengths off the lead. And Irad Ortiz, who had ridden him in his debut at Gulfstream, is, you know, he's got to be thinking he's sitting on a pretty good horse. He's got him in the clear, but now he goes from 3 off to he's about 4 or 5 off the lead. And Irad will just, I think, gradually start getting into this horse on the far turn. But what impressed me is the longer the race went, I thought the better he looked. I thought once he took over in the stretch is when he really impressed me. And he's still got some work to do here. This horse on the lead is 4 to 1, and the rider's really not asking him too much. And you can see Irad is now getting to work on Untreated, and it's pretty clear here Untreated is going to go by him. But I thought once he goes by,
A little late
I
to
thought
switch lead. By the way, a little late
yeah,
to now he switches
yes,
leads. He was a little. He's still green. He's still learning.
yes, exactly. But now that he switched leads,
Yeah.
now
Forget
they
it.
can go around 2 more times and no one's going by him. And I read gears him down. So, again, he's going to be heavily bet. It's a Pletcher, but still on the class scale, this is a non-winners of 2, and you know, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, they were thought enough of this horse to throw him in with Essential Quality. So I think, in my opinion, even though he's going to be heavily bet, he's the most logical single in the sequence.
What I noticed about this horse, he's got a big stride. This
Yeah.
is he's not real quick, out of the gate, but he's got a big stride. He's by Nyquist out of an Unbridled Song mare, and Unbridled Song was a little bit, ouchy, himself. My only concern with this horse is just making sure that he gets a decent trip. He does not, similar to a horse I mentioned before. I'm going to go bring this on screen, Paul. I'm just speculating here, but he doesn't look like he's the kind of horse that'd be real good in traffic and like, need that quick acceleration. He's a bit of a grindy type. So that's always a little bit of concern when you single a horse that's not going to be on the lead and needs, a little bit of a trip. But his talent is unquestionable. The one thing that I want to ask you, Paul, is I'm slightly surprised that Todd's bringing him up here in New York. Now, the purses are better. He's got his mainstream, of course, in Florida at Gulfstream. The purses are better in New York. I think he just wants to separate his better older horses. I mean, he's got Life is Good down there. He's got a horse called Fearless, which is a nice handicap horse. Any just sense or just based on your experience why Todd might be racing him up here in New York instead of maybe in Florida?
Well, he was already in New York. He obviously came to New York after the bluegrass
Sure.
experiment, so he's already here. I wouldn't be surprised if you know uh, he gets a ticket south for the winter after this race. If he were to show up in a stakes at Gulfstream in February, that wouldn't surprise me. But this isn't the most difficult spot. I think with the horse like this, it's not about the purse money. Team Valor paid 550 for this Nyquist, so it's
Yeah.
it's not about looking for an easy purse. I just think it's probably the right spot. It's the one turn mile that he ran last time and did run well. I do agree with you though, Howard. I think the scratch of the one might hurt this horse a little bit. When I looked at this horse, this race, I looked at him coming from behind as he did last time. And as you say, he does look like a little bit of a grinder. There's obviously a lot less pace in the race because the one was definitely going to go from the rail, Jose
Yeah.
Lascano for Linda Rice. So, having said that, maybe that makes the six closer early on, right?
Yeah, no
Um,
question.
so,
Michael, someone on the chat, Dean G, on the chat asked about Boldish. Listen, Linda's scratching the one and racing the two. That always, brings my antenna up a little bit at least. I don't think this horse is classy enough, but Liz, a 3-year-old colt who's improving and has got speed in the rail. So listen, Dean, I don't think the two is the worst, horse to use here. The one that I am most interested to maybe beat untreated would be the four, and you have the four and third. Uh, by land and seas, we go and look at the PPs here, has been on turf. But he's by Cairo Prince out of Maria's Mon mare. And so you got to think he could probably handle the dirt. And he's got bullet after bullet, by the way, which, again, there's only been 4 works, then 8 works. I mean, you got to look carefully because when you look at these bullets, 2 and 3 back, there are a very small amount of workers. But if the track is wet, Paul, which usually turf horses like that a little bit more, uh, he's definitely classy enough. I mean, he's been in grade twos, grade threes on the turf. I don't know. Blinkers on, Carmouche. Paul, I think this is a dead send. I'm a little bit interested in the four, at least underneath.
yeah, I think you make a good case, Howard, and I think listening to you, I mean, I was using him anyway. I had him third. Uh, I think he will be a B. I think I'll have the six as my lone A in the race, and the four will be on my B team, so to speak.
Yeah,
Dutro is pretty sharp. You look at him, only 71 starts this year, 24%. He had a long drought, and I think toward the end of Saratoga, if my memory serves, I think he popped a few winners. Caramouche is a good point, Howard. He's not a guy who's going to sit back, and
no,
you know the breeding suggests you point out. And I'll tell you what, the Maria's Mon factor, I'm fairly certain Maria's Mon is a pretty good wet influence as well. So, uh, yeah, there's stuff to like with him. Absolutely. You mentioned Bouldish, Howard. If this horse is 10-1, I will be betting him in the race. I mean, the horse has won three in a row, three solid buyers since the Zilla folks who I'm very familiar with. Mike Piazza runs a great operation. They claim this horse, and since Linda's had him, 3 wins in a row at Belmont. Up through the conditions, maiden claiming, starter allowance, non-winners are one. This is the next progression. The horse has had a little bit of a layoff, but 3 works back, and if this is the type of horse where after the race you say, "Gee, that horse was usable." So,
Yeah. Well,
and I
listen, we
got
could.
and I did visit this horse when I was at Belmont for the Breeders' Cup
Oh, okay.
weekend. Howard, I
Oh,
did
nice.
visit Linda's barn,
Okay.
and he, you know, I he's a definite he's another B teamer for me.
Okay. I will listen. There's no ABC selections. We need to move on to the next race. Paul and I love talking horse racing. We'd probably talk for an hour and a half today. We're already up to 40 minutes. Um, but listen, this is a big pick six. And Paul, do you have a time constraint? Is there a time that you need to? Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and talk. We have a lot of people watching. I don't think people mind. Most people are off work today. I'm not going to bring up my ABC ticket or anything, but I just will say for me, Paul mentioned he's got some Bs. I don't have any Bs, Paul. This to me is the six is my lone A. If the six doesn't win, I'm most likely not going to hit this pick six. I'm going to use the four as a C. I might use the two. But really, I'm gonna take a stand here. The more C's you use, now you're adding more money to the ticket. I'm already playing a pretty expensive ticket. To me, it's untreated, or I'm probably gonna lose. I'm just gonna take a stand there. Let's go on to race seven, because there's three more. There's actually two more races to cover. Excuse me. There's our picks for race seven. This is a race that behind the camera, Paul and I have already talked about a little bit for one particular reason, which I'm sure he'll mention. This is for New York breds. It's a stake race. They're going a mile and eighth. It's the Alex M. Rob, excuse me, $100,000. Mile and eighth is for older males, and there's a horse on the comeback trail with a great name and a big following, especially in New York, that you've got on top. The number three, Brooklyn
Yeah,
Strong.
how they say bet with your head, your heart, your head, not with your heart. But it's funny. I did in preparation for this, Howard, because I do like to be prepared. I did speak to Danny Velasquez about 10 minutes before we came on the air.
Oh wow,
Uh,
okay.
I got to know I when this horse won the Sleepy Hollow back in October of 20. The guys at the special that I'm happy to work for, Tom Law and the Clancy brothers. We also do the content for the New York Thoroughbred Breeders website. There's a New York Thoroughbred Breeders hat here. So we cover the stakes races, and I had a chance to talk to Danny Velasquez after that. I think it was after the Remsen, actually, I spoke to him. But anyway, no, it was after the Sleepy Hollow. The Remsen, as a 2 year old, he had one of the best 2 year old buyers that year. He ran in 94. I went to the Wood Memorial. He just, he was in deep. The track was a mess, so that was kind of a throwout. Now, the horse was not on the Derby Trail, but as you remember, how horses were dropping left and right off the Derby Trail. He only
Yeah.
had the 10 points for winning the Remsen. And the guy Mark Schwartz is a great guy. $5,000 horse, Howard. Now you're a new horse owner, so you can relate to the fact that you buy a horse for 5,000, and all of a sudden you get a sniff of the Kentucky Derby. You're probably going to say, "Yeah, where do I sign?" So
I mean, the
they
horse
took
doesn't
the
know the connections, anything at this point. Paul bought him for five. He's earned
right,
over 200, earned over $230,000. That's just unbelievable.
and arguably, Howard would have earned a lot more. The Derby absolutely, as it can do, it absolutely knocked the crap out of him. He
Okay.
came back in the Pegasus at Monmouth in a race that was actually pretty good for a $150,000 race. Mandaloon and Wayburn and Dr.
Yeah.
Jack. He Anyway, long story short, uh, Danny Velasquez has a training pattern that he likes to use where he goes with 2 3 furlong works, 2 4 furlong works, 2 5 furlong works, and then a six. He's got this horse sitting right there. Uh, I called him this morning just to wish him luck and try to get a feel for what he thought. And he said the horse is definitely ready. He is off a 6 month layoff against a pretty good field here. Might he need a race? Yes, he definitely might need a race. Uh, but he's, as far as the pressure goes, the whole Derby thing is an intense cauldron of pressure, and they had their moment in the sun. But he could have earned, and I think will earn, a lot of money in New York bred stakes races. This is a damn good New York bred horse.
Now, Paul, you just said he might need the race. Is that your opinion, or is that what the trainer actually told you this morning?
No, he told me that this morning.
Okay, but guys, this is why it's great to have people on who are in the know. I don't know the trainer, so again, Paul talked to the trainer this morning, who again, just to reiterate, said the horse is working well, feeling very good, might need the race. I did read something online where I think Mark Schwartz said this is the first time he's truly been 100% healthy, but healthy doesn't mean he's going to win today. So
Right. No,
um,
he's up against it. He's up against it.
yeah,
He
so
did put on a lot of, he lost a lot of weight after the Derby, which you can expect. Um, like I say, the Pegasus race was only about 5 weeks after the Derby. That was too soon. They sent him to the farm. He needed the long layoff. He got the layoff. And, I mean, on paper, as far as his ability, if he shows up with his A race, he's top three at worst and likely wins. But so you could take that with a grain of salt. As I say, I'm actually covering the race if he does win for the website. Um, and again, I get attached to these horses I write about. So don't
got
go
to take a
by me.
little bit that into account, right? Just a bit,
Take
but
a lot. Take a lot.
yeah. All right. So and Paul, we appreciate your full disclosure on that. So it's a bit sentimental, but I mean, obviously the horse can win. Um, I think a horse that's going to be very tough at this point, especially, and I want to. I probably will change my picks, guys. That you see at the bottom of the screen. There was a big scratch. At least to me, it's a big scratch. The number 7, Chowda. I love saying the name, uh, is a scratch, and he was very fast early. So that takes a lot of speed out of the race, in my opinion. I'm going to be upgrading Seafoam number 4. You have the 4 in second. Guys, you see, actually, I'm going to change the picks as he talks. I'm upgrading the 4. No disrespect to Brooklyn Strong, but I'm going to move the 4 Seafoam ahead of Brooklyn Strong based on the scratch and based on what you said also from the trainer. Talk about Seafoam a little bit, and then I'll talk about my top pick, Paul.
Yeah, I I would agree, Howard, that the scratch of Chowder, and that's how we pronounce it in Boston, Howard, Chowder.
Okay.
That's the proper pronunciation of the word,
Yes, sir.
Howard. I had a wonderful bowl of it last night, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
Uh, and just for the record, for my New York friends, my good friend Jamie Herman, who aggravates me at Saratoga every year by buying something ridiculous called Manhattan clam chowder that's red. Just for the record, clam chowder is not red, folks. It's white. Okay. So
Wait,
do not,
there's two different. Are there two different chowders?
well, yeah, right. And there's grade ones and there's $5,000 claims. Come on, Howard.
There's
There's
the real
chowder.
chowder and the fake chowder. Huh? Okay,
Yeah,
we got it.
please. The Manhattan clam chowder. They take clam chowder and throw in a can of tomato soup and call it chowder. Anyway,
You can hear Paul on the Food Network next week at 8 o'clock. All right, anyway,
but
Seafoam,
but
Paul.
seafoam is, and especially Howard with Caramouche on them, right? Um,
Yeah,
this was one of the. We look back at Saratoga this summer. One of the great stories of Saratoga was this horse winning the Evan Shipman Stakes race. Michelle Giangiulio, no one had ever really heard of. Very limited starters, one woman operation. Does everything. Gets on her horses in the morning. Doesn't have many horses, and this was a really great story when Seafoam won a stakes race at Saratoga. This horse is fast. The horse has proven he can carry the speed. Caramouche is on him. That race last time, American Revolution, Howard, I think is one of the most underrated, late developing 3-year-old, one of the
yeah,
most underrated. I played the horse in the Pennsylvania Derby against the likes of Hot Rod Charlie. They were American Revolution. They were very close to running
yep,
in the Travers,
yep,
and they opted to hold for the Pennsylvania. They ran the day before the Travers and
yeah.
won the West Point, I believe it was, or the Albany.
Yeah, a horse I
Uh,
talked about on this show. I played him that race as well, and he ran very credible, and then just ran obviously a huge race in the Cigar Mile.
right. And so losing to that horse last time
Yeah,
is no, especially the Seafoam last time, Howard didn't never really was able to open up by a great deal. You know what I mean? Where we think that might happen today with the scratch of Chowder.
Yeah, we'll just show the race real quick. This was a very fast pace. Seafoam, I didn't get the number now. Darn it. Sorry, it was too
Seafoam
quick.
was the 7 post
Was the
position
seven?
there.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you
And you
see
could
he's
see he's being sent.
yeah, but there's other speed in here. You just really can never get too comfortable. This is a fast horse. I mean, he's going to the lead. We don't need to watch this whole replay. He's going to the lead. There's no question about it. And I think he's very talented and probably a very likely winner of this race, especially with the scratch. There are some others. You have real quick. You have the two, which I'll tell you what. This horse has driven me crazy over the years, especially
You and
recently.
me both.
He won a race for the Noda brothers at one point when he was just some ridiculous price, and I don't know what to do with this horse. I think 4-1 is a little low. I think that's a bit of an underlay in my opinion. But he might get the setup, and you know he likes the distance.
Yeah, well, although I will say, Howard, we talked about the race uh, flow. This is a horse who also likely will be hurt by the scratch of Chowder. This is a horse that
Yeah,
wants can really run all day,
no question.
um, and I think is going to want to come from behind. Doesn't really look like he's in good form, but it's the type of horse, Howard. If for any reason they start to get leg weary in the last furlong,
Yeah,
he'll be along, as they say. He can. I think the horse can run all day. I think he could run a 2 mile race. He's kind of one paced, but in a race like this, he could come from behind. I'm with you, Howard. He drives me nuts. The day that he won for Noda, that was a big carryover day. He was only 7-1. It looked like he should have been high. It just he didn't seem to make any sense in that race.
no, he
Um,
killed me that day. I had some expletives that I was throwing out there. I will say
oh,
after that
Howard,
race.
Howard Kravitz. How could you have expletives around a race, around a
Listen,
horse
with a
race?
big when I had a big ticket and the horse had like horrible form and all of a sudden it throws a 96, I'm like, even Serling said, where the hell did that come from? Um, uh, Number five, Our Last Buck was mentioned by Tom Espinoza. Tom, I'm not sure the distance suits for Our Last Buck. I think he's a much better sprinter. Let me talk about the nine a little bit because this is my top choice. I mean, I'm bearing the lead with the nine here. Uh, Tiergan, and again, I'm not with the scratch of the seven. I don't know, but with the scratch of the seven, Tiergan I think now has a chance to be up closer and also not as wide. Last time, and I just said, don't base everything on the last race. And I guess I'm being a little bit hypocritical here, but he ran huge last time. I mean, huge. He was a legitimate four wide the whole way. Ran a 95 buyer against Empty Tomb and First Constitution, who are open company, very nice horses. I don't know if Rudy can get this horse to run again like this, but if he can, Paul, there's absolutely no reason, in my opinion, why Tiergan can't upset this field. He's raced on slop. He's gone a mile and an eighth. I mean, he has tactical speed, and listen, Rudy is very capable of keeping a horse good when he gets good. So this is sort of my sneaky wise guy horse. I don't like 9-2. I'm just going to mention that Tiergan would not shock me. I just want to point that out. He's also 8 for 11, Paul. 8 for 11 in the wet first or second. So I think there's some interesting things to like a bit about Tiergan. I want a horse in general, as I bring us back on screen, Paul. I want a horse probably in this race that can be close to Seafoam. I just don't see a dead closer winning this race, in my opinion. And maybe if Seafoam takes a little step back and Tiergan continues to improve, Brooklyn Strong, there's big questions. I don't know. I think you can do worse than Tiergan at, maybe 4 or 5 to 1 to upset the field. All right.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Howard. I don't think you're going to get any more than that. I think 4-1 is probably, especially with the scratches. I think 4-1
Okay.
is the ceiling. And the only other thing I'll say, I promise, is the last thing I'll say about Brooklyn Strong, because I know everyone is tired of listening to me, including me. The wet track would be a definite plus for him. He does not mind. In fact, likes a wet
Yeah.
track.
No question. I mean, his best number was in the slop in the Remsen when he got in
Yeah,
94. So this is a fascinating race. I mean, I can see people singling Seafoam, Paul, and just saying he's the best horse. He's got speed.
right,
Go ahead. I feel about Seafoam a little bit the way I feel about Blewett, just in the sense that I don't fully trust them on the
right.
lead. So we'll have to see. All right. We have someone, Aroth. I'm not too familiar with Aroth. Do you know Aroth,
I
Paul?
don't, but I
All
like
right,
his attitude.
Aroth.
I like his
Beast
attitude.
Mode, Brooklyn Strong. Aroth, thanks for joining the show. I don't think we've seen you before commenting on the show. Really appreciate it. Good luck with Brooklyn Strong, Aroth. I think he definitely has a shot. All right, let's go ahead to the last race. Now, listen, the closeout, if we are alive, and Paul, I'd say this is a pretty difficult sequence. I wouldn't say it's, impossible, but I would say it's relatively difficult. We get to the last race. We both have the same horse on top. This is Mile on the Dirt. It's for 2 year olds, main special weight, state breds. We are both going with the 10 on top, who's probably the logical favorite here. Going from turf to dirt for Bill Mott and Jose Ortiz, Curlin's Wisdom. 5-2 morning line, Paul. I'm guessing more like 8-5 come post time.
Yeah, and you know, you you can't single in a race like this, I guess, Howard, because it's a state bred 2 year old maiden race. But I'll be honest with you, my second most likely single of the day would be this horse. I think
Okay.
this horse
Wow.
is, and again, well, someone out there is going to put in the chat, how can this idiot have such a strong opinion in a race like this? And I would agree with that person. But
Wait,
you
about the
know,
idiot part or about the strong
yes,
opinion
yes,
part?
absolutely. Uh,
Okay.
although I do still have a chance to get out for the year. Today's the day you get out for the year.
Listen, I
Uh,
think a lot of people are feeling the same way. There's going to be a monster pool. Go ahead.
but it's he ran a much better number on uh, dirt. I don't know of the turf experience. Obviously, with Curlin, comma my favorite horse ever, comma they he the turf would have been fine. Didn't run badly on turf. But he ran a 61 on dirt. If the track does stay wet, uh, my favorite all-time race. I was there for the Breeders' Cup Classic when my beloved Curly won in the slop at Monmouth.
Oh
So
boy, here comes another sentimental pick, not using your head. Why do we have you on the show, Paul Halloran? You're just
no,
giving
no,
us
this
sentimental
guy.
picks.
Well, no, this sentimental pick's going to be 8-5, as you said, Howard. So
Okay.
there's going to be other sentimental fools other
No,
than
no,
me in
no.
this race.
I don't know why
Uh,
they ran him on turf. That's sort of weird to me. But anyway, go ahead.
The only thing, I don't either, Howard, especially at that time of year. I mean, there's a lot of money in the New York bred turf division, but
Yeah,
November 18th, you're coming to the end of the year. They stop racing on turf in December. So,
yeah,
um, Rockport Harbor was a very good precocious 2 year old, right?
yeah.
So there's the Rockport Harbor influence on the dam side. Jose Ortiz. How would I look at it this race one or two ways? Either this horse is going to win easily, or someone's going to blow up the tote board, and the thing is going to pay six figures.
Yeah, I feel about this race a little bit like Untreated, the other single. And by the way, I'm so happy that you said this is your second likely single, because when you see my pick five ticket or my pick six ticket, you'll know that I agree. To me, it's either the 10 or could be throw your hands up in the air. And that's how I feel about the Untreated race a little bit. I mean, either you can single there or you can go 4 or 5 deep. Um, I love the outside post, by the way, in this kind of race too, because Ortiz can just break and see what happens. I think this horse can easily step up to like a mid 60, high 60 buyer, which should absolutely get the job done. Very briefly, as we're going to be ending the show, folks, in about 10 minutes here. You've got Juggler, who is still in the race, I believe. Is that right? Or why do I think that horse is scratched? No, maybe not.
No, he's
Okay.
in.
Okay. You've got Juggler in second off the claim for Vasquez. I assume you just think the horse will move up. But
Yeah,
he's got
well,
some buyers on the go back that are actually decent.
yeah, and Vasquez, for better or for worse, is 67
Unbelievable.
percent at the meet. We can talk about that another day, but
It's a good point.
He is good off the claim. The wet track should be okay for him. Again, Howard, I had to pick someone second and third in this race. I didn't spend a lot of time. Once I went through the race a few times, I didn't really spend a lot of time on second and third because I think the 10 is pretty solid.
Okay, so let me talk about my fuzzy. Well, I have two strong opinions in this race other than the 10. Uh, the 4, it's Excursioniste, is going to take a lot of money. I don't know if he's a dirt horse. Now, this is very important for me at least. If the track appears that it's going to stay sloppy or wet, I would upgrade this 4 a lot. You can see 2 starts back, Paul, in the Sleepy Hollow, which is a restricted New York bred stake race for 2-year-olds. He ran a nice Beyer as 68, which would absolutely get the job done. But you look at his first race, which was a fast race. He was scratched. It was scratched off the turf. They kept the horse in. Didn't run great. Granted, that was his first start. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with the 4 right now. I don't even have him on my ticket on you see on the screen because I thought it would be a fast track and I thought this horse was mainly a turf horse. But if it stays wet, I'd have to add the 4. Here's a horse I just want to mention, everyone. If you can afford it, or even maybe throw him in your pick 4s if you decide to play a pick 4. Salute to America. Now, this is the kind of horse on paper that I'm sure most people watching are like, Howard, you're crazy. Here he goes with some nutto. Listen, uh, you have to pay attention a lot to these horses that look horrible. First of all, debut and was a very tough race. I'm going to show you uh, the form in just a second. He was 8-1, so it's not like he didn't take any money. He cost 80,000. Let me just show you the race real quick and the buys. You see, the horse that won had a 78. The horse that came second had a 77, came back and won with an 83. This was a very, very live maiden race, very much more difficult than this race. Number one. Number two, it's Tom Morley. Tom Morley won with a horse yesterday, Air Show, that he just claimed that was in the worst form I've ever seen, and he moved this horse way up. And Tom Morley is an honest guy. I've actually met him, so Tom Morley knows what he's doing. I just want to show one thing, and again, if this horse runs well, or at least throw this horse maybe, somewhere in your he's the 6. I just want to show. Let me go ahead and turn the sound off here. Watch the 6 in this race, Paul. So he actually shows a lot of speed. Again, this was a much more difficult race than the one he's in. I'm going to fast forward. Watch the 6 very carefully. Something really weird happened here. He's moving up, and you know this is what brought my radar up. I'm just going to go ahead and watch this, Paul. Tell me what you think of the 6. I'm not even going to say anything. Watch in about 5 or 6 seconds, very carefully. Right there. What was that? Did you
It
see
looked like
that?
he,
Like,
yeah, it
I don't
looked like
know.
he
Right here,
threw
like
his head a little bit.
I don't know if he didn't like the dirt or like hit the rail. I don't know what happened there. Completely lost his action. Okay, and after that, the jock's just letting him run on. Nothing happened. But again, I just want to show that one more time. Right? You see that there? I think maybe it was the dirt. I don't really know what it was. Maybe he got a clod of mud in his face. All I'm saying, Paul, is he got a 29 Beyer, okay? But if, excuse me, he got a 26 Beyer. If he doesn't have that action and he's actually ridden out, this is just me completely speculating. I would say he had a Beyer somewhere in the 40s. This is just my opinion. This horse is going to show speed. He's got Carmouche. He's second time for Tom Morley. I'm throwing this horse in underneath in my pick 6, and I am especially throwing the 5 horse in my trifecta plays, and I'm probably going to play a pick 4 also. I don't know. I'm interested. Listen, maybe the horse can't run at all. People can laugh at me. That's fine. Paul, when a horse shows a lot of early speed, second time out in a race I don't trust, and had some weird kind of situation, I don't know. Am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy because the positives are Caramouche stays, right?
Yeah,
As you point out, he stopped riding him, first time starter when something like that happens. It looked like he was beaten already, but whatever
yeah.
happened, he's not going to persevere with them. Um,
It might have been a shadow,
there's
by the way, too. It's hard to tell. It's either a shadow
yeah,
or I think he got mud, just a clot of mud in his face. But I mean, it's not like he was completely going backward. Actually, you could argue that he was, I don't know if he's going forward, but he was sort of holding his position until that happened, at least in my opinion.
the horse who ran second came back to win, which is a
Yeah,
positive. Now Morley, second time starters in maiden races, 6 for 73, so that's not a positive.
yeah,
Uh, his overall, it's looking, if that's 9%. I just checked the formulator. His second time starter in all maiden races, he's 6 for 73. But now you're gonna get hurt on the price, Howard, because it's a my racehorse, so they're all gonna bet him.
Yeah.
So, but they won't. It's not going to hurt you in the pick six, by the way. It's going to hurt you in
No.
the race.
No.
It's gonna hurt you in the race, but it won't hurt you in the pick six. Yeah, again, I have I've now added him to my B team, Howard, on your word.
Look, if the horse runs up the track, I'm not going to be surprised. I just think, I don't know. I think you're going to get more than 10-1, by the way, too. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take our picks off the screen. We're going to wrap up the show here in just a minute. Let me go ahead and take the PPs off. Listen, when you see a horse, loses ninth by 23 lengths, Paul, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm the only one in the world that's not going to watch a replay, but you and I know, Paul, that a lot of people just see that line, and there's really nothing in the comment line either, and they're like, I just toss this horse out completely. These are the kind of horses I like to look at, and I think there was at least a little bit of an excuse. And if the horse, even comes in third, I'm probably going to play a try in this race. It could make it very interesting. All right,
Yeah, I wouldn't get too caught up with the margin of defeat in a first time
I
starter.
agree completely.
We have a horse, we have a very, very small piece of that ran for the first time the day before the Wood, and kind of pressed the pace a little bit, and then Irad was on him. Once he got into the stretch and it became clear he wasn't going to win, he just he wrapped him up, and you live to fight another day. So I
Yeah.
would never get too caught up with the margin of defeat. And the horse took a little money last time. How 8-1 is in a maiden special is not. Someone bet him.
Into the teeth of some very good horses. I mean, when you
Yeah,
see when I showed the form when I showed the form, and or sorry when I showed the chart, Paul, and you saw 78, 77. I mean, none of these horses in this race even sniffed those kind of buyers. So I mean, that was a very live maiden race, and this one you could argue is not. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. Paul, here's your pick six ticket for everyone who's interested. It's a night. I asked Paul to give me a sub 100. Folks, you got to spend some money if you're going to play this, okay? Because it's a dollar pick six. There's going to be a lot of money in the pool. I wouldn't recommend if you're someone who has a budget of less than $50. Frankly, I probably wouldn't play it. I just don't know if it's really worth it for you. I think you're gonna have to spend some money here unless you have very strong opinions on singles. You're singling the six untreated. You're going too deep in the last. You're adding that Juan Vasquez horse, which actually I'm adding also because I am intrigued just because the guy is, I don't know. I didn't want to get into
yeah.
it, but anyway,
For
he's he's,
better or
he's
for worse.
winning at a ridiculous percentage. You're going too deep. That's what in the third leg. That's Seafoam and Dark Storm, I believe, and
Yeah,
then you're going
correct.
Brooklyn Strong, and actually, sorry, Brooklyn
Seafoam.
Strong and Seafoam. The
Right,
previous races, Blew It and Dark Storm. There we go.
right.
So you're a little bit chalky in the middle, but maybe a little more spready on the outside, correct?
Yeah, I'm probably not playing a caveman, but I think if I were going to go the caveman route, Howard, I would be tempted to play two tickets
Yeah.
and one with a single of untreated and try to spread as much as I can elsewhere. And the second one, I would actually single the 10 in the last race and try to spread elsewhere. Now, I get, I get a little annoyed when people say, well, I don't want to single the last race. Well, if you have to single somewhere, or I want to spread in the first race just to be alive. If you don't hit 6 out of 6, it doesn't really matter that you were alive. Okay, we're not in this for the excitement. Okay, this is not an everyone gets a trophy exercise. All right, so would I want to single a horse in a 2-year-old maiden race? No, but if I think he's one of the most likely winners, I'm not going to not single him just because it happens to be the last race of the sequence. That's that's my opinion. But I think if I were going caveman, that's how I would go about it. One ticket with untreated single, and then one ticket with the curling horse in the last race single.
By the way, CK Tooth, we got new viewers. I'm very excited. This is
I'm
I
bringing them out, Howard. Clearly, I am bringing them
Well,
out.
clearly it's all you. We already knew that, but I mean, I love seeing new people on. Paul, you and I are thinking so much alike in the sequence in general. It's crazy. I'm looking down at my paper below. Let me show everyone the much more legitimate ticket, of course, than Paul's here. Let me show my
I would
ticket.
hope
I
so.
mean, I mean, come on. No, I'm just kidding. There it is, Paul. You can see there's my two singles, right? If I were playing Caveman Ticket. Now, Paul, I'm not going to show you I got a pad of paper here. I play an ABC. Okay, if I were to play a caveman, I would agree. I'd play two or three cavemen, and I'd back up the fourth leg with untreated, and I'd back up the last leg with the curling horse at 10. So we're thinking very much alike. I'm a little more spready in the middle, but again, this was before some of the scratches. I don't know. I still think Tiergan is a bit interesting in the Alex M. Rob. I do think the two in the leg three, which is the new claim for Eddie Barker, I believe, is a
Yeah.
little bit interesting that I would maybe throw in. The race that would make me the most nervous would be leg two, where I have my sort of sneaky the three ghost, 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 and the more likely winner the six, who's really the speed of the race. I've got a speed, I've got an interesting closer, and I would just pray. But again, as I look at my ABC ticket on my own sheet of paper, I'm using many others in that race underneath. It's very, you could single untreated, you could single seafoam, you could single Blewett. I mean, this is a fascinating ticket construction kind of bet, isn't it, Paul?
It is, and and Jonathan Kitchen, who we all know and respect, he makes a very good point, and his point is we all spend too much time handicapping the races and not enough time on ticket construction. So you and I have handicapped this last night. We talked about it this morning before we came on the air. We've just talked about it for an hour and 15 minutes. And now we got only 3 hours to actually 2 hours rather to construct the tickets. And I'm not positive which way I'm going, which is not a,
Yeah.
I am definitely going, an AB or an ABC route. But that is a very good point. Is that it really, it's about ticket construction, and budget is obviously a factor too. None of us have unlimited, but although Howard, you're a mogul now, you have big syndicates sponsoring you, and you're a horse owner, so your budget is probably, you know, I heard through the grapevine that you might be making a second trip to Saratoga to spend some time with some real degenerates. Uh,
That's a
so
possibility. We'll have to see. No, I do not. Actually, my budget's less because I do own horses now. Actually, so listen, I don't know if you heard. It's about 60K from what I understand to train a horse in New York for the year. That's a crazy amount, but that is the business. Listen, Paul, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I just want to say one more thing before we end the show. Um, I'm truly a blessed, Paul, and you're one of the reasons why I've had so many fantastic guests. I mean, way too many to name in 2021, but there are so many people like yourself that I never met, or maybe never would have met if I didn't start this podcast in 2021 in January. I just want to thank everyone out there I talked about on the 100th anniversary show. Everyone out there from, just viewers who watch the show to people that are more famous TV personalities, trainers, jockeys, owners, people like yourselves who are not only viewers but in journalism industry as well with horse racing. Just I've met so many great people. I'm so happy that I started this podcast, and I look forward to having you and many other people on in 2022 and bigger, better things with more sponsorship. By the way, I will say that I'm looking to get onto Spotify, SoundCloud, and some other avenues, Paul. The first time I've mentioned that, I'll be working on that in the next week or two. And go check out my YouTube channel, as you mentioned. Adelphi Racing Club is a new sponsor on this show, and I have a whole separate portion of my YouTube channel that'll be dedicated to the Adelphi Racing Club, and we have a lot of features. The first one talks about the two-year-old filly, pronounced Salivo, as I understand, and also a Tappert coat. Paul Halloran, any resolutions for 2022 or any closing thoughts on this pick six sequence as we end out the calendar year?
Well, Howard, just echo what you say. We meet a lot of people in racing. The guys that you're going to meet when you do come to Saratoga for that second weekend, Whitney weekend. Myself and Bob Mullins from Lynn have been great friends for 20, 30 years. But these other guys we just met at Mohegan Sun at the Jim Mesa Progressive Handicapping event. And now we've been away to Breeders' Cups and Whitney's and Belmonts, and you name it. So you meet great people, and I put you on that list. I think you and I spoke in April for the first time. Dr. Jeff Moore, I think, connected us. If you ever need a good eye doctor in Southern Florida, by the way. But these are the type of people you wouldn't meet without this game, and it's a great game. Here we are on New Year's Eve. Some people are worried about what they're going to go out and eat and drink tonight, which is, how silly is that when we're worried about trying to hit this pick six today?
Listen, I hope everyone crushes this pick six. I want to wish all you viewers out there, handicappers, everyone, all viewers and fans of the HHH Racing Podcast, the healthiest and happiest New Year's. Let's make 2022 the best year ever, and let's have a larger bankroll for 2022 by crushing today's pick six at Aqueduct. Paul Halloran, thank you very much. Everyone, have a great, happy New Year. We'll see you next year, next Thursday, for episode 105 of the HHH Racing Podcast. This has been Howard Kravitz. Have a safe New Year's Eve tonight. We'll see you next year. Take care. Bye-bye.